what is your proof that these are specifically situated in that country to pose as a direct threat to Russia? And already you've gone to these gargantuan lengths to be like, well, I mean, we're not going to say that this is the plot of a Bond film, but it does seem highly sus that a biological facility, why would it be there instead of anywhere else in the world? I mean, why not in Germany? And it's like, well, there actually is numerous biological facilities in Germany. It's like, well, yes, but this one specifically, it's there in Ukraine. Why would they put it there? And to what aim? I wonder. Curious this. All right, let's get right to Tucker Carlson. In an effort to argue that Ukraine is making biological weapons, Tucker Carlson cited in an interview with the Pentagon official who, in that very interview, said the exact opposite of what the Fox News told his audience the official had said. For years, the Russian government has alleged the United States is funding labs in Ukraine to develop bioweapons, possibly for use against Russia. The U.S. denies the charge. However, what was once the theory seen mostly in Russia's state media and the fringes of the internet had a booster rocket attached to it by the State Department official named Victoria Nuland. Nuland testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Tuesday and was asked, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons? Rather than answer the question, she responded, Ukraine has biological research facilities, which in fact we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research material from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach. Now, a couple things to note right out of the gates. I don't know why this is not being reiterated on a multiple basis, but by the way, biological research facilities is not biological weapon facilities. You can put the equal sign with the slash in the middle of it. There's a lot of things that human beings research on a regular basis. Doesn't mean they are intentionally developing that for use as a weaponized, I don't know, virus of the sort. Not to say that, you know, it wasn't a matter of time before we saw the whole Spider-Man meme of people pointing fingers at each other in a circle, all saying the whole, like, you're developing biological weapons. You're developing biological weapons. Well, apparently the Russians are developing biological weapons. The Ukrainians are also developing biological weapons, but they're going to take the other team's biological weapons and they're going to use those biological weapons upon the other person. Now, I haven't even gotten to the asinine claim that is just utterly ludicrous on its surface that apparently in conjunction with the United States, Russia, state information is showing that there could be a biological weapon that specifically targets ethnic DNA of Russians and is going to somehow eliminate them. The plot of James Bond or Metal Gear Solid, one of the two. Now, outside of, the Kremlin, you're not really hearing a lot of other prominent people say that, but we're starting to get flirtations of this. Nuland was not pressed further. Carlson and others pointed to her worried and waffling response as evidence that the minister may be afoot. On Thursday, she chided reporters for repeating Pentagon talking points. Oddly, though, in the same segment, the host cited an interview with a Pentagon official named Robert Pope in order to give oxygen to the bioweapons theory. Goddamn Robert Pope. Not again. All right, here we are.
Day after Russia invaded Ukraine, Robert Pope, the man who heads the Cooperative Threat Reduction Program at DoD, sat for an interview with the website Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. Pope is the man in charge of securing or eliminating Soviet-era bioweapons, so he knows a lot about the subject, maybe more than anyone else. But it turns out that not all of these Soviet weapons are being destroyed or even secured, and Pope acknowledged that in the interview, which apparently CNN didn't see. According to his interview, Pope said the labs, quote, may hold pathogen strains left over from the Soviet bioweapons program, preserved in freezers for research purposes. Pope said that, quote, scientists being scientists, it wouldn't surprise me if some of these strain collections in some of these laboratories still have pathogen strains that go all the way back to the origins of that program, end quote. In other words, because as Pope put it, scientists are scientists, they don't want to destroy all the bioweapons. Instead, they're using them to conduct new bioweapons research. That's what he said. And not just on strains left over from the Soviet Union.
So, again, oh God, I've really clearly been drinking a lot of juice. My ads are all centered around juice. I've had COVID for some time now. Something very quick to state, again, I don't know why they're conflating bioweapons with bio-research facilities. That seems to be something they're doing a little bit too flippantly and without direct evidence of it. Glenn Greenwald joined the fray, though.
But to attack anyone who, American citizens who ask honest questions, of Russia seems to me so far out of bounds. I'm worried this is being established as a precedent.
Well, as we know, this has been going on for 5 or 6 years, that anybody who questions the predominant mainstream narrative from the media, from the Democratic Party, are tools of Vladimir Putin, are...
They could really save time for Glenn and just have that soundbite ready, because he opens every time with it. Like, it's predominant that if anyone questions the mainstream narrative in the media, that one line, that's his opener all the time. It's as if it gives him authority over some of the shittier stuff that comes out of his mouth. But as long as I preface it with, like, you know, there's a predominant bias in the media, clearly, and I'm going to expose it. That's what I'm here to do.
Kremlin agents are sympathizers for Moscow. This has been their tactic forever, and obviously it's escalated now. But the one point I want to make, Tucker, is when the government comes out and emphatically denies that they have biological weapons, we know they're not telling the truth. Remember the anthrax attacks right after 9/11? They were incredibly terrifying because of how weaponized they were. First, the government said it was from al-Qaeda, then they said it was from Saddam Hussein. In 2008, they said, we solved the case. Actually, it came from a U.S. Army lab, from an infectious disease specialist under the auspices of Tony Fauci, a scientist who cultivated these weaponized strains of anthrax and deployed them on U.S. soil. We know they did the same thing with the coronavirus, where they manipulated the coronavirus to become more lethal and more contagious. They claim that those aren't biological weapons because inside their brain, their intention is not to use them, but just to study them. But the things they're making are exactly the same as what you would...
Inside their brain. Inside their brain.
Make if you were to make biological weapons, and you have to be so careful to understand what they mean when they deny that they have these.
Well, the last question, maybe you don't know the answer, but why Ukraine? You know, of all the countries you would conduct this kind of research in, you would pick one with like a solid medical infrastructure. You'd pick Germany or Israel or someplace with, you know, first-class scientific research going on. You would not pick Ukraine. Why Ukraine?
Unless you viewed Russia as your primary threat.
Oh my God. Wow. You went there, just ramped it up. Like, I'm sure there's biological research facilities in a number of countries doing a whole range of different studies. A, do you have direct evidence outside of, like, you know, statements that have been made either by U.S. officials or others that these are biological weapons facilities? That's the first one. And that's a huge one. That's a giant leap of faith right there. B, if you can then prove that these are biological weapons facilities, not research facilities, because there's a huge difference between the two, then what is your proof that these are specifically situated in that country to pose as a direct threat to Russia? And already you've gone to these gargantuan lengths to be like, well, I mean, we're not going to say that this is the plot of a Bond film, but it does seem highly sus that a biological facility, why would it be there instead of anywhere else in the world? I mean, why not in Germany? And it's like, well, there actually is numerous biological facilities in Germany. It's like, well, yes, but this one specifically, it's there in Ukraine. Why would they put it there? And to what aim? I wonder. Curious this.
Unless you wanted to be provocative toward the Russians, unless you wanted to be in Ukraine developing all sorts of weapons, as we clearly have been. We've been flooding that country with lethal arms for 5 or 6 years. So clearly there's an intention for the United States to be heavily involved in Ukraine.
Oh, Kubi, I don't know if you didn't notice what we're talking about. We're talking about Ukraine right now, actually. Yeah.
The Russians say their motive is to be threatening and provocative. The United States denies that. But they have their tentacles in Ukraine and have for many years all the time, which is a critical part of the narrative that has been lacking.
That's right. It's fair to ask, what have they been doing in Ukraine? Why are all their kids working for Ukrainian companies? What is going on here?
What is going on here? It's so hard. And what about Tulsi Gabbard? What does Tulsi Gabbard have to say about all this?
Tulsi Gabbard, former congresswoman and presidential candidate. Congresswoman, that seemed to be a critical piece of paper we signed with the Ukrainians in November, just a few months ago, basically saying, yeah, you're NATO, you're on the way. You're getting there. You're close. Did anybody in Washington think that might have been a little provocative? And I'm not blaming the Americans for everything that Russia does. I'm just saying it takes a little touch to handle a buffer state like Ukraine. Don't you think so?
Yeah, Jesse, you know, as you said, there is so much devastation and incredible suffering that's going on in Ukraine right now, and the world needs to condemn Putin for his actions. The thing here is that our leaders really have this FU attitude, and they just don't care. We see this FU attitude in our domestic policy here at home, where they're saying, you know what, FU to parents who are concerned about what their kids are being taught in their schools.
How did you do that? How did you, it's okay, so that's 1 minute and 4 seconds. She starts speaking at around the 26th, so that's 30 seconds. She's transformed the conversation. This is really a masterclass in manipulation, by the way. Transform the conversation about wartime atrocities into culture war issues. Because now, all of a sudden, and she's tied them together too. It's like, yeah, I guess I am kind of concerned about what my kids are being taught in schools, and I'm kind of afraid of that CRT. And yeah, that's true that they've kind of been doing things regarding sports teams I'm not completely familiar with, not that educated on, but I guess this all does tie into some, I can't put my finger on, but the FU attitude that the government had, and then that somehow, yeah, tell me more, Tulsi.
You know, FU to Americans who want to make their own decisions as it relates to their health and COVID. And then you see this same attitude and mindset also extending to their decisions on our foreign policy. Basically going in and saying, you know what, this is what we're going to do, any other country in the world, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. There's nothing anyone can do to stop us. And all of this just points to the fact that they just don't care, because, Jesse, if they did, then before making these decisions, before taking these actions, they would stop and think for more than just a moment about what the ramifications and consequences of those decisions will be. Who will they impact the most? How will they impact the American people, the people of these?
What the fuck are you talking about right now? Like, seriously, it's so ambiguous. You're just generic statements being thrown out. Like, yeah, if only they would really think about the decisions they made pertaining to, of course, the choices that they were going to organize upon themselves. Yes, if only they had actually taken some repercussions. Like, what the fuck are you saying right now? In front of millions of people, no less.
Other countries. What will the cost be? Is it worth it? What is our objective, and what are we trying to accomplish? Does it serve the best interest of our country? These are the things that they would be considering before they make these decisions.
What decisions? And what the fuck are you talking? What are you saying?
I look back to 1996, something that exemplifies this FU attitude and their lack of care for people was when Madeleine Albright was asked about her reaction to the sanctions, U.S. sanctions policy against Iraq that had killed 500,000 kids. And as you know, her response was chilling when she said it was worth it.
Well, the Biden administration is going to have to ask themselves this question. Is this worth it? I looked at the market today when I came into work. It's down, what, 700, 800 points.
Malign. No, we were told it would go up forever. Line go down. Excuse me for 1 second, everybody. So there's a new article that just came out today in the Daily Beast. Now, I want to preface this with one quick thing. I don't want to give way to the whole McCarthy era. You know, we now have to do a hunting down of any single person that they may be considered to be too friendly with the Kremlin, or that every single person who speaks out in opposition to war, which includes myself, is suddenly a KGB agent in surprise or something like that. Haha, you see, by saying it out loud, no one can accuse me of this. But this article is kind of interesting just because you've always been probably wondering why it is that Tulsi Gabbard is the way that she is. And I suppose we should put on our generous sponsors for this episode here. Oh, good. We got the space. We got the Space Force. We're good here. Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii and 2020 presidential dark horse candidate, has long perplexed U.S. officials and observers with her seemingly inexplicable pro-Russian positions. And a new development this week is sure to reinforce the half-jokes that Gabbard is a Russian asset, as it turns out her campaign took money from one. That agent, dual Russian-American national, Elena Branson, also known as Elena Chernik, stands accused of illegally pushing pro-Russian policies in the United States for nearly a decade at the direction of top Kremlin officials without registering under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, according to a criminal complaint federal prosecutors filed this week in the Southern District of New York. But in all her time lobbying for Russian goals, she gave money to just one federal candidate, Tulsi Gabbard. According to the Federal Election Commission records, Elena Branson made 2 donations to 2019 to Gabbard's presidential campaign. The filings tie the donation to Branson's former address at a multi-million-dollar condo at Central Park West. However, the merchant banker listed her occupation as not employed. Branson lived in the United States for decades and holds American citizenship, so the contributions were legal. While the combined total of those donations isn't colossal by any means, a whopping $59.95, they do raise questions as to why an alleged Russian agent tasked with currying favors with U.S. politicians would zero in on Gabbard and only with Gabbard. According to a Justice Department press release, Branson, who fled the United States last year, remains at large, had ties to top Kremlin brass, and corresponds with Putin himself. At the direction of the Russian government, she led a years-long campaign to identify the next generation of American leaders, cultivate information channels, and shape U.S. policy in favor of Russian objectives, FBI Assistant Director in Charge Michael J. Driscoll said in a press release. Now, something I do want to quickly get out of the way, just in case anyone is going to say this. I think the Russiagate hysteria was right to call out by a lot of people. I'll tell you exactly why. Russiagate, not that there isn't and there wasn't a lot of ties between top officials and members of the administration of Trump's cabinet and them perhaps colluding and or having close ties to people who worked in Russia. The delusion that Putin was single-handedly a puppet master for everything Trump did and controlled the White House from on high. That was the part where I thought they went way off into the deep end and gave a lot of fuel to people like Glenn Greenwald, who then made it his cause célèbre for the next year to continuously talk about how, hey, by the way, it's pretty wild that there's all these Russiagators who think that Putin is literally controlling Donald Trump with a series of strings, or into the super homophobic stuff that they were also talking about. It's like, oh yeah, they're sucking each other's cock so much that they can't control each other because so much cum is drizzling and all the blah blah blah. So all that is a little bit absurd. But if we go to the fact that looking towards this, and more importantly, we should bring up something that else is going on right now. Breaking Russia. One goal of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine was to create bioagents that can target certain ethnic groups. This comes after it was revealed that the USA was gathering Slavic DNA through Ukraine. Now, the first time I heard Haz from Infrared talk about this, and I thought he was getting debated by Dylan in that debate, I was like, where's this coming from? And turns out it has a lot of its origins in the super online-osphere, specifically kind of the QAnon one. So, false claims of U.S. biowarfare labs in Ukraine grip QAnon conspiracy theories. Pro-Russian channels and QAnon conspiracy theorists think Moscow is launching airstrikes on Ukraine to destroy bioweapon manufacturing labs in order to prevent the American infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci from creating a sequel to the COVID-19 virus. This theory hangs on an entirely discredited idea that the coronavirus was designed as a bioweapon, perhaps by the US government itself. And yet, the theory is being shared thousands of times faster than regulated social media networks can yank the conspiracy theory down. On unregulated platforms such as Telegram, 8chan, the conspiracy theory has become incredibly popular, racking up hundreds of thousands of hits each day. The theory is now being actively contributed to and promoted by one Russian embassy, an official Russian state propaganda outlet, and media channels in Serbia and China. The Russian government has laid the groundwork for this conspiracy for some time. In January, the Russian-language Telegram account warned of a full-fledged network of biological laboratories has been deployed, studying deadly viruses that are already making its way, and people are sick in Kazakhstan with American grants. The Russian newspaper Izvestia ran a story in May 2020 making similar claims. They've been repeated in pro-Russian Ukrainian news sites. A close advisor to Russian President Vladimir Putin himself has accused the United States of developing more and more biological laboratories, mainly by Russian and Chinese borders. The conspiracy has received past support in Chinese propaganda after the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Hua Chunying said in May the response to the claims in Australian media about China's own supposed bioware weapon programs. The United States has secretly been working on biolabs and had 16 in Ukraine alone. Chinese state media has repeatedly spread false claims that the coronavirus originated from the U.S. Army base in Fort Derrick. The conspiracy theories even pushed the security services of Ukraine to debunk the allegation of American-run bioweapons facilities in 2020, yet the conspiracy theory emerged with new purpose this week. The most recent incarnation of this conspiracy theory seems to have begun with a moderately prominent and now suspended Twitter account at War Clandestine, which posted 2 maps comparing Russian airstrikes to the US biolabs in Ukraine. It certainly appears that Putin is targeting cities and locations with US biolabs present. He's 100% going after the alleged bioweapons. The War Clandestine account and others linked to it do legitimately belong to an American whose first name is Jacob and who has occasionally posted images and videos of himself. In one TikTok video, he says he served as in the US Army. Over the past few years, the account has frequently shared QAnon conspiracy theories, racking up hundreds of thousands of retweets on Twitter before being suspended from the platform for spreading misinformation. In December 2020, the account earned mockery after sharing an overwrought story of a date that went badly due to the support for Donald Trump, and in recent weeks, the account was closed following anti-vaccine occupation in Canada, at one point tweeting the Ottawa police force, "We got enough rope for you fascist asses too. When all is said and done, you'll be swinging with the rest of them." The supporting evidence for the Ukrainian bioweapons idea is flimsy, even by conspiracy theory standards. The account rests on little more than the assumption that all laboratories that accept American funding are responsible for creating bioweapons. It also uses a nebulous term, biolabs, to describe a wide swath of facilities, which are numerous and common in every European country. But even a lazy conspiracy theory can take hold if promoted enough. When in hours of the initial tweet, the conspiracy site InfoWars, there you have it. Thanks, InfoWars, published a story largely regurgitating the conspiracy theory. Not long after, the right-wing media site Op India ran a similar story. While InfoWars social media is stunted by bans from most major websites, Op India's version of the story was shared more than 2,500 times on Facebook. A constellation of other anti-vaccine QAnon websites picked up the story from there. A write-up on one minor conspiracy site shared widely amongst Bulgarian speakers. Through all this, the hashtag US Biolabs is trending. TikTok videos promoting the theory racked up tens of thousands of hits. If you believe those US-funded biolabs in Ukraine are making biological weapons, please sit all the way down. One TikTok user said a YouTube video regurgitating InfoWars shared more than 350,000 times by Tuesday afternoon. Twitter suspended War Clandestine screen caps were posted on Reddit r/conspiracy, where it's getting thousands of upvotes. Sorry, so basically what you're seeing here is, of course, a combination of QAnon conspiracy theorists and the tactics they use in the 4chan, 8chan side of the internet, and InfoWars' straight-up promotion of this idea, which again is being reproduced and promoted by a variety of different accounts, and it's reaching all the way to partnered Twitch streamers who are saying these things out loud as if they have any basis in reality, when actually they're conspiracy theories. Not conspiracy theories. Unfortunately, I'm now going to have a lozenge as I noticed my puberty was acting back up a couple times in that speech. And we're back.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multi Mondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojak, Cern 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.